Hey everyone, this is Nitro. So I'm going to review some more Apex matches in this video because I've actually done a lot of fights recently and a lot of them were actually good ones. So in total, I now have 88 battles in already. 47 wins, 41 losses. Current point is 1828. It's been a very interesting weekend as a side note because I slowly advanced up to 1860. And then I ended up losing 9 matches in a row, dropping down to 1750 at one point. And then I managed to recover after that, and I got all the way back up to around 1840-ish, before dropping back down a bit, and then I'm currently back at 1828. So, in terms of the recent matches, you can kind of see this up and down constantly. For example, I won this one, then I lost 1, lose, 1, loss, 1, loss, loss, win, loss, win, 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 win. So this was when I got 1, 2, 3, 4 wins in a row to get back up to the 1800 level. As a side note, this loss was a DC. Disconnects are kind of frustrating, but they definitely happen. Hello, Andrew. Other than that, wow. When I dropped to 1750, sorry, I went on a massive losing spree. I think I lost like 9 matches in a row. It was like 1 loss here, 2 losses, 3 losses, 4 losses, 5 losses, 6 losses, 7 losses, 8 losses, 9, yeah. So 8 losses in a row. That was what dropped me 110 points. So that really, really sucked. But and a whole bunch of them were possible wins, except for bad RNG. But, RNG happens, especially in Apex Arena. It's very much a part of this game, so gotta get used to it. As a side note, it looks like once again the chat box is not working. So give me a moment to play around with that, because I saw someone type a message, but it's not showing up in the chat box once again. Weird. I have no idea why I'm constantly having this problem. Seems like every stream I start, I'm getting this issue. Give me a moment to try to figure this out. Oh, there we go. Trady's message showed up though. There we are. Okay, good. So it is showing up after all. Okay. So in that case, I am going to continue with the stream then. So give me a moment to just... Okay. So let's go all the way down. There's too many matches I've played, so I should review some of the older ones, because I know a whole bunch of those older matches are probably now gone, right? Given how many I've played, they only keep a certain number of matches here. So, for example, it's like, I'm sure a bunch of them are now gone that I probably wanted to stream about. Well, in any case, did I stream this one? The loss to Ledin? Not sure if I did, so I think I'll begin with that. Okay. It doesn't have a number on it. Usually I number the ones that I've already done, but let's just do it anyways. I might have streamed this one in the previous video, but figured I might as well show it because I actually lost this match to Ledin. So my fellow strategist runs a very interesting party. He runs 3 tanks, Ledin, Landius, and Jugler, along with a whole mix of other heroes, like very unexpected heroes in general. For example, I see Tieris still here, I see Imelda here, I see my god, what's her name? Lambda here. Chris, Matthew. None of these are very meta characters, so it was very much a surprise to me. I actually wasn't sure what to ban as a result. In terms of healer count, it's like 1 healer, Tieris, 2nd healer, Imelda, 3rd healer, Wiler, 4th healer, Liena, you can say Chris is kind of a combat healer, 5th healer. Deedlit is kind of a combat healer, 6th healer. Chris is kind of a combat healer, 7th healer. So a massive number of healers mixed in, along with 3 tanks. So you can see his box, the theory behind it, now that I look at it, is about, well, keeping characters alive. Long story short, right? Tons of combat healing and 3 tanks, which makes it very hard for you to prevent him from playing tanks and healers. So that's the basic idea behind this box. Like, even though there's 7 healers, or 7 combat healers, let's say, in addition to that, Jessiqt can self-heal, Rein can self-heal, Ares can self-heal. So it's basically everybody except for maybe Lambda is the only one who can't heal, or Lambda and Matthew are the only ones who can't heal in this box. Right? It's kind of crazy. But yeah, so what I played was, I started with Jugler. He started banning my Jugler. I really wasn't sure what to ban here, so I started with a usual Jugler ban in response. Force him to play a tank, right? So I play Landius, and I now lose Ares and Rein. Pretty standard overall. That's the most common losses that I lose. He plays Landius as well, so we continue on. And Ares and Rein I ban, so identical ban so far. Right? I start off with Jessiqt, which is a very common start for me. Like, my second pick is usually either Jessiqt, Listel, or Jessiqt. In this case, I decided to use Jessiqt. So surprisingly, he gets rid of Angelina right away, as well as my Licorice. So, and he plays Liena. Right off the bat, second pick, Liena. So, this was probably the situation where I should probably have banned Ledin or whatever, but as I said, I was not sure what to ban on his team. So I banned Matthew and Jessiqt at this point, and play Gizarov. So I lose Iris and Bozel now, so he's forcing me to pick a healer at this point. And he plays Ledin. Okay. Next up, I ban Rachel and Lambda. Get rid of the magic attackers. Right? The AoE attackers, the magic attackers, force them into a single target team. That was my thought process here. And I play Wiler. So he now bans my Jessiqt and Listel, leaving me just Deedlit and Liena. He plays Deedlit. I now ban his 2 more healers, Wiler and Tiaris, and I play Deedlit in response. And finally, he plays Chris. Between Chris and Almeda, he chose Chris, which was interesting. I would have thought that Almeda's debuffs would have been more useful than Chris, but you know, that was his pick. So I decided to go for Templar Knights here because I saw 2 magic attacking characters, right? Deedlit and Chris. I figured that even with Templar Knights, I could tank the hit from Ledin and Landius, but the Templar Knights would do very well against Deedlit and Chris. So I guess that was the idea there. Gizarov has the faction buff, so Jessiqt can be Bloodthirster form, which actually I kind of question now. Deedlit also is bringing Sea of Miracles, Gospel, and Elven Aura. Wiler has his usual high stakes tactical retreat regroup. Hello. More people joining into the stream now. Good to see. So, Landius, right? His Landius is very typical. Ledin, Righteous Duel and faction buff, right? The Legion of Glory faction buff, buffing up Chris, buffing up Liena. Deedlit has herself buff, bringing the standard build for her, and Landius has his own buff. You know, nothing too unique about either side's skill picks. I suppose the one thing I should mention is also Chris's 3C, now that she has it, right? So the one, oh, he did bring Mass Protect on Chris, which surprised me because I'm not bringing Jessiqt, right? Chris would have been a great pick if I had Jessiqt, but I don't. So, not sure why he brought Mass Protect there. Other than that, Benevolence is the 3C skill, right? 1.6 times damage, heals allies, dispels debuffs, melee soldiers attack, And before attacking, your unit damage is increased by 20% and damage taken is reduced by 20%. So it's kind of like giving yourself an Iris buff while attacking, right? And then also dispelling things. And then if the enemy hero is a demon unit, before battle, they are stunned for 1 turn. This effect cannot be dispelled. So I really don't get why he brought Chris, right? I mean, unless he kills off my Landius, he's not going to be able to hit Gizaroff with that skill. And in the first place, Gizaroff isn't exactly the clutch character to keep or to kill anyways. So yeah, that's what he did. I started with Gizaroff dropping the construct so that I could maybe send it in and have it do its AoE damage and so on. Although, since he does have Liana waiting, it's hard to say that would have been a good move. Now, interestingly enough, he got double mobility buffs. So this is probably why he brought Chris. Right? Chris's gift effect of giving friendly units within 4 blocks, adding buffs onto them. Right? After taking action, dispels 1 debuff from 4 friendly units within 2 blocks, and adds 1 buff to all of them. So he was hoping to add those kind of mobility buffs and so on. Alright, moving on. So, right there, Ledin comes charging in, since he got that mobility buff. And I just have Zelda move back. Kinda killed my plans now that he got that mobility buff. That's what really happened there. I was thinking of moving Zelda in and then Bloodthirster in here, but so much for that now that he got +3 mobility. Well, nonetheless, do some AoE damage, move back. I probably made a big mistake there not having Zelda trigger her Bloodthirster as well. Right? But like I said, I was completely thrown off by what happened. So, you know, I did the AoE, but right away, Sea of Miracles dispels, removes those debuffs, and he's ready to keep going. So I just have Deedlit Gospel herself as well. And I try to strike Ledin right off the bat. Don't do enough damage to kill. So I thought Elven Aura at 2 range would do really well against the Phalanx soldiers and against this 573 defense Ledin, but didn't really go as planned. So let's just show that one more time. So right now, this is 1557 int. I have the +24 int there. I have +20% int from Gospel. I thought this would do really good against the lower magic defense of Ledin, but Ledin does have that 15% reduced damage after all, but I was just shocked that my Deedlit didn't do anything near what I expected. So I'm just going to turn that on and just take a look now. Elven Aura, right? It looks like a bunch of hits from Deedlit also went into these Phalanx soldiers. So the wizards were not able to kill off those Phalanx at all. Let's just see that one more time. Right. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of hits from Deedlit hit those soldiers. So surprisingly, my wizards are only level 9, but still 710 attack plus 27% attack against 246 magic defense, and I was not killing them. So that was a big surprise to me. Very unexpected. I really expected the wizards to perform better than this. Yeah. Oh, I'm aware of that, but that's exactly why I ran wizards instead. Right? I ran wizards on purpose to deal with those Phalanx, and the wizards just didn't do what I thought they would. So, yeah, I really expected more damage out of the wizards. That sums it up. But clearly, I guess, the wizards don't have enough damage, at least with Deedlit. I guess the combination, the factor is this, okay? A, Deedlit's talent does not buff up the wizards, right? Unlike Lana or Rachel, her talent is not a plus damage %, it's a plus int. And since wizards are attack based, they don't benefit from Deedlit's talent. So I guess that's why Deedlit's soldiers failed to kill the Phalanx, and thus Ledin gets to live. So that's a lesson I learned from this fight. So now I have Jessiqt finally trigger her Bloodthirster form. So battle continues. He begins by casting Prayer, pretty much heals Ledin to full. I move Langrisser up here, and he tosses out Wretched Duel at me. Right. So this is where I make a tactical retreat, but it does not pull Deedlit back. And most importantly, Deedlit's mobility is reduced to 0. Okay. So I was thinking I could pull back both of my characters after this. So that's why I moved up. But I completely forgot that Righteous Duel renders characters adjacent to him. They get -3 mobility. So suddenly I can't retreat my Deedlit. Okay. So I try to protect Deedlit because I don't want her to die. Figured moving up like this could guard and maybe prevent Ledin from, striking. And he starts with Langrisser's Assault. So I now activate high stakes at this point. Gotta keep my characters alive. So he tosses out Mass Protect, and Chris activates Breeze. Deedlit gets a Breeze buff. Chris providing mobility buffs over and over again. That's fine though, I figure. I'll have Gizoroth move in and toss out his faction buff. Oops, I should probably turn this off. So let's turn that off now. So, Construct moves up, tries to weaken Liana for a bit, whatever. Deedlit charges in, act again, Elven Aura Strike on my Jessiqt. That was probably the game-losing attack right there. So I totally neglected the fact that he got the mobility buff on Deedlit and that Deedlit could act twice. So I could have stopped that, I think, maybe. If I had moved Gizoroth here, let's say, his Deedlit can move over here, then move 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I couldn't stop that. The only way I could stop that, basically, was to have Jessiqt move in and attack right away. And there were no targets for my Jessiqt to attack. So that was a big mistake on my part. So Deedlit charging in, getting to act again, and then marching in to kill off my Jessiqt. How did he do that, actually? I'm actually kind of confused because I thought that Langrisser prevents move again effects. That's why I was so confident. I thought I would prevent the move again effect, but instead, he just totally ignored it. Right? He moved next to Langrisser and he got to act again anyways. So I guess the move again effect is referring to not new turns. It's referring to what's it called? Things like chivalry or things like retreating after attacking, right? Things like Omega, for example, as opposed to something like this. So down goes Jessiqt very, very quickly. Battle's basically done. But I continue to try to kill Ledin. Just not doing well. Especially since he has Liana to heal. So once Zerda was dead, I was screwed. Yeah, exactly. Act again versus move again. So he moves Diglett back into guard range. At this point, there's nothing I can do to win. The one thing I was hoping for was that my construct would get 2 range. Because then I could have Gizroff attack, and then the construct attack Ledin, right? But nope. He remained at 1 range, and I knew that if I had my construct attack at 1 range against this Ledin, my construct would die. So, yeah, no chance. So at this point, battle's basically over. Like, I have no way to kill off the 2 tanks, especially when they have multiple healers like this. Yeah, Apex is definitely harder this season. I think so too. So, but it was interesting. Like, I mean, he runs an interesting box with tons of healing, with tons of mobility buffing, like Chris and so on, tons of haste, and yeah, it works for him in this match. I don't think I would lose to him consistently, but this was one of those battles where he took full advantage of when he got those mobility buffs and was able to wipe me out. The key point was when I lost Zerda, of course. Once Zerda was dead, it was all over. But yeah, just the Chris Breeze activations completely screwed up my plans over and over again. So it was an interesting battle. Like, well worth going over. Next, I had a long list of battles where I just said skip, 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 skip. Presumably because either they were very straightforward wins or very straightforward losses. So next, here is a win against Feraquea. Right. So Jugler ban, Zerda ban. Let's see. Yeah. Standard ban for me on my part. He banned my Jugler. On my side, I looked at his box and right away I wanted to get rid of the big damage dealing threats. So I started with Zerda instead of his 2 tanks, which was Estelle or Langrisser. I didn't even care which tank he played at this point. So I lose Ares and Licorice. Once again, I mean, the Licorice was a bit of a surprise, but yeah. He plays Jugler. So, you know, with 3 tanks, Estelle, Jugler, Landius, I was just like, forget banning the tanks. I want to get rid of his damage dealer straight away. So he starts with Jugler. So I get rid of Liana and Yulia here, rather than, and I play Lestelle, of course, right? Liana, the only character who can provide Gospel in his party, so get rid of her. And then Yulia, because I don't like Yulia's abilities, so, and then I play Lestelle. So that way I can have Lestelle cast her, you know, Reaper's Touch on Jugler. I now lose Reen and Lestelle, or Reen and Angelina. And he plays Chloe. Surprisingly. Of all the healers, why not Iris? Chloe was a big surprise to me, but okay. So I get rid of Landis and Estelle now, get rid of those other 2 tanks. And I play my Zerda, since he didn't ban it yet. So Yusuke and Wiler are now lost, leaving me Liana and Iris. He plays Joshua. So I get rid of Angelina and Rene. Long range attacker who can get faction buffed. Angelina can alternate and move characters forward. And I play Liana. So Iris and Diglett are banned. He plays Luna. And I get rid of Claret and Licorice, right? The 2 characters who can benefit from the Princess faction buff. Well, I mean, his Joshua benefits, his Chloe benefits, so he does benefit from the Luna faction buff, but I got rid of some of the other ones who do. So that leaves him with Iris and Feraquea, right? He can bring 2 healers or Feraquea. And on my side, I end up picking Bozo. So between Gizerov and Bozol. I felt like Bozol was a better selection in this situation. And yeah. And he ends up playing Feraquea. That's the last character. So once again, Zerda charges forward and faction buffs. So this time around, I decided that I wasn't going to do the Bloodthirster version. Even though I could have Bozol faction buff for my Zerda. For whatever reason, I just... After getting screwed that last game, I think I was just like, you know what? Let's just run the regular Zerda. I think that was my thought process. Wasn't really a great choice though, because as you see, he gets to Dark Demise me right away. And I lose a part of the buff, get fixed damage, and so on. Nonetheless, I act again and heal him up. And so he moves Jugler in and Tritons. So I have my Zerda right away, charge forward, and Shadow Ray down that Joshua. And move back too. In response, he has his Luna come charging in on my Zerda, but Zerda lives. Because at full hit points with Last Rites, Luna without Raging Thunder just does not do enough damage to kill her. So Zerda survives with 5,180 hit points. Landius comes up to guard him. To guard my Zerda. And he just has the rest of his team move forward, Aurora Ring. And finally, I have my Bozol faction buff to try to buff him up further. So, but I forgot that Feraquea is also an assassin. I thought I would kill Joshua without any losses. But Feraquea is an assassin. She does have plunder skill. So even though Landius was here protecting, Feraquea's assassination takes out my Zerda. Just like that. And so I move in and put Jugler to sleep. For now. So the other thing was, after he plundered me, he changed classes to assassin, right? And he got his act again. The morph talent triggered so that he could move back 3 tiles after killing me. Interesting choice with the Feraquea. So I just start tossing out the Mind Bore here. So the reason for this is because he activated Aurora Ring, right? So I knew with Mind Bore that would turn it into damage. And the unfortunate part is Jugler has Jugler got it removed, but he cannot heal yourself applied onto him. So Luna should be taking damage from it, and so should Chloe. Feraquea has already used it up because she moved twice. So that's why you see Chloe take damage. And then I have my Landius charge in aggressively. Right? Because I need to crush this Jugler while I still can. Especially now that it got cannot heal yourself on him. So he knows he can't keep the Jugler alive, so he just teleports forward. And in the meantime, I figure I'm going to make him do some additional damage to these other characters. So what ended up happening here is very interesting as well. So he had Chloe range attack me with Discipline, right? And the Phallic Soldiers, so I lost a whole bunch of hit points. More importantly, Leanna only has 1 movement due to the Sacred Beast Hymn. Right? So she's considered in water. So suddenly, Leanna can't actually heal my Landius. So whatever. I just try to do some more damage to Jugler, put him to sleep, remove some buffs. Landius dies for the first time, and I can't heal him. So Liana attacks as well. And that was enough to finish it off. And now Feraquea, maneuver, swap, does not do enough damage to actually kill my Landius the second time. So this was his mistake. Okay. He could have killed me there. Except he had maneuver attack at 3 range. Going back quickly. Right? If he had attacked me with 2 range so that the sorceresses with magic attack were doing damage, my Landius was dead. But because he used maneuver at 3 range, the sorceresses were not participating. So as a result, Feraquea with just 1139 attack didn't do enough damage to kill off my 937 defense Landius. So unfortunate for his side. I'm sure he thought that, you know, look, there's just barely any hit points in this Landius. I can kill it, but it didn't happen that way. A lot of the attacks were wasted on those soldiers, and so Landius lives and gets to retreat away. But despite that, Feraquea, single target strike, Feraquea, morph attack, takes down my Listel. So this unbuffed Feraquea with the double attack killed off my Listel. Granted, my Listel was damaged, but still, you know, still a surprise. So first attack, second attack, down goes Listel. So that's why I guess he runs 3 skills, right? Snare, maneuver, and plunder. Well, nonetheless, as a result, I was able to heal my Landius back to healthiness, back to being healthy. But I have to be very wary of this Feraquea. The 3 skills, it's just constantly using them, endlessly. So Luna attacks my Bozal, but Luna's already heavily damaged. Right? But he silenced me. So I just end turn with Bozal. And have Landius charging aggressively, wiping out Luna. He has Chloe attack, heavily damaging my Landius once again. And now I faction buff, act again, Bozal, and Dark Reaper with Bozal to what I thought would one-shot Chloe, but didn't. So once again, characters are just not dying when I think they would. Right? I really thought that Chloe would die to this. But the sorceresses were not at full hit points. I mean, neither was Chloe, frankly. But she did have full hit point Phallic soldiers. So I think that's the difference. Right? Sorceresses were not getting the 45% attack increase. And there were not all of them alive. So because of that, Chloe was able to survive the Dark Reaper. Barely, with 3% hit points, but she lives. So now, Feraquea maneuvers, and this was a big mistake on his part because he killed himself, right? If he had maneuvered back here, he would have been fine. But he chose to maneuver from the Poison Fog. I guess he thought that he would swap positions with me. So he was thinking swap positions in front, probably get to act again and then attack someone, probably kill off my Liana, for example. But instead, he suicided his Feraquea, giving me the win. If he had attacked at 3 range with Feraquea, like let's say move here and then attack, then he could have acted again and maybe killed off my Liana or something like that. But because he attacked the way he did, he ended up suiciding and losing the match to me. Like, I actually think I probably would have lost this. Probably. Because what I would have to do next turn is kill off this Chloe. Then he gets to act first yet again. Although, granted, I do have sleep on my bozo. So I might have been able to put Feraquea to sleep and then finish her off. So, but yeah, big mistake on his part. That's basically it. If he did not suicide Feraquea there, he very well could have won this match. Oh, that's a good point. Can you swap positions with peace of mind? Ah, that's a very good point, right? You can't be displaced. Wait, no. Did I get displaced earlier? Didn't Landius get maneuvered earlier? Let me see. Like... No, I didn't get maneuvered earlier. You're right. I don't think I would have been swapped anyways. Because of... Would have been interesting to see. It says displacement effect right here, right? Inflicts displacement effect, swaps position. So, yeah, I think you're right, Italox. I can't get swapped. He just made a big mistake at the very end there with Feraquea. But this was nonetheless, even though I won this was a very interesting battle because Feraquea showed off that she's much deadlier than people realize, especially me, right? I certainly did not expect Feraquea to constantly kill off my characters one after another. Right? Zerda died, Listel died, Landius died, you know, and Feraquea should have been alive to maybe finish off my last two characters too. Regardless, like, despite his final turn mistake, this was just a fascinating match. Like, just Feraquea, this was really a Feraquea showcase. So. Fascinating. Like, yeah. A character that I would have never expected to be good in Apex was surprisingly good against my party in this match. So, I guess I shouldn't underestimate her. Yeah, I was frankly shocked by how effective she was, Feraquea that is. It was because she can keep acting twice. But yeah, the combination of being able to act twice and having 3 different skills to use just let her keep attacking with skills. And she just killed off a lot of my characters despite having no faction buff at all. Okay, next up then. So this was, I think this should be a fairly quick battle. Just a juggler overpowered battle. So, Dead KK has a very aggressive box. Right? There is Imelda, flat out, you can see this is an offensive oriented box. Hiei, Feraquea, Zerda, Toguro brothers, Imelda to mobility buff, Iris to teleport characters forward, Deedlit can act twice, Zerda. The characters that don't really make sense here is Rene, in my opinion. Licorice. I mean, Licorice is a dark faction buffer, so maybe his thought process was he has a lot of dark characters, but he doesn't have enough to run Rene and Licorice, in my opinion. I feel like they would be better off replaced with characters like Sonya. Nonetheless, very offensively oriented box. I think Sonya would fit in here better than Rene does, but maybe he's trying to give him choices between using AoE attack and single target. I don't know, or he just doesn't have enough characters built. In any case, yeah, there's a few issues with this Apex box. Like, it's not oriented towards either single target or AoE. So I ban Arianrod right away because I expect to get to play Landius in general, but he banned my Landius. So he starts with Zerda. So this threw me off. So I just banned the 2 tanks right off. So he's going for a full attack build. So clearly I have to play my Jugler. So now I lose Ares and Yusuke. He plays Toguro brothers. I ban Hiei and Feraquea and play my Zerda. I lose Angelina and Deedlit. Just gonna quickly move through this. He plays Listel. I'm very weirded out by that third pick. I would have thought he would have picked a Dark Faction Buffer, but he played Lestelle instead. Okay, I get rid of Imelda and Iris. So I'm like, whatever, let's do that. And play my Gizzer off. Faction buff for all 3 characters here. I now lose Liana and Rain. Right. And he plays Bozo. So there's the faction buffer. A late pick Bozo. I shouldn't have allowed that, frankly. But I did. So I get rid of Licorice and Rene. 2 more dark characters. I really should have swapped the order. Rather than banning Iris and Licorice... rather than ban Iris and Imelda, I probably should have banned the 2 faction buffers first. Nonetheless, he got the faction buff in with Bozo. I play Wiler. And I lose my Bozo and Licorice. He plays Diglett rather than Liana. So no healers, all offense. And on my side, I have the choice between Iris and Lestelle. And I choose Lestelle, of course. Bloodthirster to start on turn 1. And he of course has the faction buff on Bozo and 2 AoEs. So no seal. So, on my side, I'm just retreating far back. I know I need time to set up. As long as I'm set up properly and so on, I'm confident I can beat him. So my Zerda here is also Bloodthirster. Okay. Rather than faction buffing, I'm Bloodthirstering as well. So turn on Danger Zone. So my Zerda currently has the enemy Zerda in range because I activated Breeze. He now faction buffs, but keep in mind that he goes first. So now I drop the construct down. Right. Place the construct in the center here. I figure it could help block the road. Toguro bros, block them from reaching my tank and so on. Yeah, I know. Diglett is kind of a healer with Sea of Miracles and then Elven Aura, but it is kind of iffy. In this case though, he went for a Diglett with Accelerated Aid in Elven Aura and Sea of Miracles. That's why I placed my Zerda that far back, you see. Because I saw that he had Accelerated Aid, +1 mobility for allies, right? So when his Zerda moved up and didn't get a mobility buff, he then had his Zerda... his Zerda got the +1 mobility from Diglett. Unfortunately, so that's why I placed my Zerda 1 tile further back, right, to avoid that situation. Because if I had moved 1 tile in, he could have had his Bloodthirster Zerda kill my Bloodthirster Zerda. So placing 1 extra tile back kept mine alive, although he does have that extra mobility advantage from Diglett over me. I do keep forgetting about that. Alright. Faction buff now. And both sides are just holding back. So, Accelerated Aid, this time on Toguro Bros. So they're now ready to charge in. So I'm just configuring defensively. And here comes the Wiler high stakes. 20% damage reduction and all that good stuff. Surprisingly, I got a mobility buff on the construct, so they can move in pretty far now. But that's why you run Tenyo's headdresses, right? So now, Toguro Bros, in they come. So, 120%, body manipulation attack. Jugler survives with 140 hit points. Shall we take a look at that one more time? So this is a fully built Toguro Bros. Attack of 1563, having activated 120% using the 3C skill. And my Jugler, of course my Jugler had Wiler buff, but it got crit hits, but it still lives, right? Wait, did I get crit hit or did he get crit hit? Let me just play that one more time. Turn it on. I got crit hit. So, crit hit, 31,600 damage, but Jugler lived with 140 hit points. So a properly enchanted Jugler with, over 1,000 defense can survive the Toguro Bros. Unless the Toguro Bros has a really, really good enchant. Okay. Yeah, when he attacked, the attack even increased even further, as a side note. So, I lived. That's all I care about. Of course, Wiler played a big part too, right? Without Wiler's 15% damage reduction, Jugler was dead, for sure. But since I'm alive, let's start with Ultimate Construct here. I had the option to send this Construct in against the back guys too, but I decided that it was better to just take out the Toguro Bros. But I forgot that when they go into 122% state, they revive. There is that secondary effect of them, right? When they've attacked, right? After attacking, can move 5 blocks. After this effect has ended, lose 90% of remaining hit points, can't be dispelled, but it blocks 1 instance of fatal damage. Totally forgot about that. Well, whatever. So let's just get rid of him. Lestel Blood Dance. And the other reason for Lestel Blood Dance is to block the road. So stop Zerda from charging in to my characters in the far back. Because I know he has his Deedlet is like a support, right? With accelerated aid. It's all about mobility buffing. It's like bringing Imelda. Yeah, my enchant is Thorns, and it's not ideal. A lot of people run Steel for the 10% reduced damage. I'm still running Thorns. There are advantages to Thorns, but there are disadvantages too. The biggest disadvantage though is I need more gold if I want to change my enchants. Okay, well, now my Zerda also reactivates her Bloodthirster. So both sides have a Bloodthirster Zerda up and running, but I'm able to position mine in a way where I can crush this Zerda. But I do realize that this Zerda still has the ability to accelerated aid. I kind of forgot about that. So I'm actually in range, I think. But, fortunately, I think the accelerated aid, he applied it on Bozo instead. So that lets Bozo move into AoE. Right. So he's going for the AoE assault. So I move Jugler in, and cast Regroup. He starts with Lestel, using Reaper's Touch on my Jugler. So it basically just kills off my it kills off my Wiler, but now I'm able to teleport my Jugler all the way up and heavily damage all 3 enemies here. So because I got the mobility buff on Jugler earlier, and thus I can move all the way up and just jump assault the enemy. So with this, he's basically screwed. Right? Zerda can no longer move. Deedlet can't move and is heavily damaged. He has Bozo move up and toss up the black hole, but Zerda in Bloodthirster form doesn't get debuffs. So Zerda ignores all debuffs. Lestel got mobility debuffed and cannot use passives, but no silence or anything like that, fortunately. And no cannot be healed, so that benefits me. So in the meantime, I'm going to have my Zerda quickly assassinate Bozo. Alright. And move back. So he tries to have his Zerda attack mine. His Zerda dies, my characters take more damage, and he just gives up. So, for me, that was a clutch mobility increase, but once I got that +3 mobility, Jugler is terrifying. Just the sheer number of actions Jugler can take once he has enough mobility to teleport ahead is crazy. With regards to luck about Toguro Bros, he doesn't have a healer. Unless Sea of Miracles could have done some healing, but it would not have healed Toguro Bros up to full health. Yeah. So there we go. The real comeback though was Jugler at the end, for sure. It does really, I mean, when you get Jugler and if you get a mobility buff, that's when Jugler is just stupid. I lost a match to Leumas for this to the same thing. Actually, so that was this battle. Let's keep going up. I said this one was fun. Let's take a look. JK, I'm still not sure. I mean, I kind of am building up a set of whatever gear, maybe Holy Ring, so he's immune to silencing, but I haven't really decided yet. I might bring Miracle Staff, I might bring Vidar's Rose, I really have not finalized his gear yet. So this battle I said was fun. His party is another assault party, Sonya and Ares. Right? So two high damage characters with Iris, Tiaris. Surprisingly, no Imelda. But Arianrod, Reen, Listel, Hiei, Zerida. So kind of meta-ish. No Wiler, but Tiaris instead. But I'm surprised at the lack of Imelda. Generally speaking, if you're going to use high mobility single targets, you really do want Imelda in your box. So, nonetheless, overall, fairly meta-ish. And yeah, I start by banning Arianrod. I just don't want to face him or face her. So I lose Ares and he plays Landius. So I get rid of, surprisingly, I get rid of Iris and Reen here. Not sure what I was thinking with that ban. But yeah. Oh, I think I know. I think what I was thinking was, I'm not too, you know, I can't get rid of both Ares and Sonya at this point. Right? I can't get rid of both of them because otherwise I would allow Reen through. So if I'm going to ban Reen and I can't get rid of Ares and Sonya, I might as well let him pick one of them and instead get rid of a healer. Because if I get rid of one of his healers, he is forced to pick a healer pretty much at this point, or else I can get rid of both of them, Tiaris and Liana. So I lose Liana and Angelina here. He plays Liana, pretty much as expected. So now I ban Zerida and Listel. Still letting him choose between Sonya and Ares. Right? And I play Yusuke. So I mentioned before, my second pick usually is Listel, Yusuke, or Zerida. I went for Yusuke here. Gizarov and Iris are banned on my side now, so he's forcing me to pick a healer in response. Actually, I wasn't paying attention, but he banned my Liana second. He actually could have banned both of my remaining healers, right? He could have banned Iris and Wiler, and I would have had no healers. So, interestingly enough, that was a mispick on my side. This was a bad pick ban, but fortunately he didn't ban my Wiler. So he plays Ares. I banned Tiaris and Sonya now, right? I didn't mention I couldn't stop both Ares and Sonya. So I now ban the other option and the buffer. And I play Wiler. Zerida and Reen are lost at this point. He plays Yusuke. I ban his Hiei and Bozolden. And I play Listel. A fourth pick Listel. Kind of ridiculous. So he has a choice between Jugler and Deedlit. I lose my Deedlit and Licorice. He picks Deedlit, of course, and I have a choice between Jugler and Bozal. So I play Jugler. Right? Might as well double tank with Wiler, with Jessiqt, with Lestelle. I can't say who won this pick ban, honestly. I feel like him allowing me to pick Lestelle and Jugler at the end really gave me a big advantage. But yeah, this was like a weird pick ban for both sides. That's what I think. Really weird pick ban. I think I won this through Jugler. The fact that he allowed me a 5th pick Jugler was just nasty. So he is gospeling up his Jessiqt because he knows that otherwise Reaper's Touch really screws up Jessiqt. Big time. And he actually gospels up Ares. That one didn't really make much sense to me. So with this current setup, the way I have it is that Landius will tank a hit from this Noble Charge Ares. He'll lose a life. Okay, that's what I figured. In he comes. In comes the attack. He actually had a Peacemaker Ares and activated the Peacemaker thing. So my Landius ended up dying. Surprisingly. That was not what I was expecting, that's for sure. And he retreats Ares up. In the meantime, because he killed one of my active characters, I know I'm not going second anymore. I'm going first. And he even acts again. So, quick pause there. He used act again there to try to get Landius to guard Ares. Right? That's the whole point of this. So he acted again so that he could move his Landius to guard his Ares. So that's why I quickly moved my Lestelle into blocking position. So he was now trying to hope for, I guess, Elven Aura to attack my Lestelle. But didn't get it. So instead, Landius jumps in, attacks my Lestelle. He seems to have totally forgotten that I activated high stakes, right? Even if he Elven Aura'd, I'm pretty sure he won't kill my Lestelle. Not sure though, because my Lestelle does not have a faction buff. Right? Landius died before he could faction buff. So it was interesting to see. Well, regardless, Jessiqt starts and takes down Ares. So, his Jessiqt now gets to crush my Lestelle. Now that she was damaged, she didn't heal the full hit points. If she was at full hit points, she would survive that, but she wasn't. So it's now 3 against 4. After losing my Landius, I've now lost Lestelle. And now I do an aggressive tactical retreat. Since he moved his Jessiqt, I could now teleport my Jugler forward. Aggressively. He triggers Sea of Miracles. Triggers Elven Aura. And now I counter with Jugler, jumping, and Sacred Beast Hill. with this, all their characters are locked down, and Liana can't move either. So no healing for those characters. So the aggressive teleportation of Jugler, moving him into range to target the enemy, should now hopefully pay off. So now, Jessiqt against Jessiqt, easy kill. So now my Jugler is okay. The kill dispelled Ledin, unfortunately. I was hoping, well, it's okay. I was hoping for maybe Landius, but Ledin is fine too. So now I have Wiler cast Regroup on my Jugler, and that allows me to be shocked down Liana now. So everything started from the Wiler forward tactical retreat. Without that, I would not have been able to teleport Jugler into this perfect position and then be able to kill off both Jessiqt and Liana, because I'm sure he was planning on moving Landius into a guard position to guard them all, right? So suddenly, from 3v4, it is now 3 against 2. So an interesting thing happened here. I thought that I had... let me just quickly go back a little. Right here, right? I thought I used Beast Shock here to crush Liana. Let me just see. Yeah. So I used Beast Shock here to crush Liana. But what happened was Angel's Feather removed the Beast Shock buff of preventing characters from moving. Right? So the Angel's Feather dispelled one buff, and that one buff was the one that locked down Landius. So Landius was able to move instead of being locked down. Just an interesting point there. So let's just go back. Right? So that's why this Landius could move. Well, at least it was not one of my Triton buffs, for example, right? Although I think I lost my water buff too. I just take physical damage for allies from 2 blocks, but I'm not. Oh no, I'm in water. Never mind. At least it didn't remove my water buff. But yeah, I was just like, what the heck? How did this Landius move? But what ended up happening was Angel's Feather. In any case. Reactivate Triton. 3 against 2, but this is the map where there's only 4 tiles in the middle. In the meantime, he's desperately trying to heal up his characters. And Ledin launches out the Elven Aura, but since she's not even moving, her int was incredibly low. So he was making mistakes here. He should have moved back, used Sea of Miracles, gotten the plus 24% int before moving back down here to Elven Aura. Not that he would have killed me anyways. I'm pretty confident I would have survived regardless, but he would have done more damage that way. Without the 24% int, right? Just doesn't do all that much to Jugler. So for now, I'll just regroup, heal him back to make him healthy. He activates Resplendent Legends. So I'm actually trying to figure this out right now, because I'm like, wait, I have to move Wiler off this tile. Right? I have to suicide my Wiler. So how can I get my characters moved and still keep 2 characters on these tiles? And the secret was to move Jugler out of the way first. So by moving Jugler out of the way, he has to move 1 character. Then I can have my Jessiqt move in and attack, and then I can suicide my Wiler, and then finally move Jugler back in. So I had to kind of I had to think that one out. I remember taking quite a bit of time there, figuring out how to properly move my characters in the right turn order. So there we go. Wiler now suicides. And triggers Tactical Genius on my 2 characters, and also triggers extra range for Jessiqt. And Jugler just marches in. So, Jessiqt kills off Landius. Side note, the damage here is incredibly close. Right? If we look at the damage count, so he's actually past me in damage now. He has 3,000 more damage at this point. But Jugler gets Beast Shock. So I get to lock down Ledin and kill her with Jessiqt. So at the very end, managed to win. So, yeah. Even though Wiler does not have a faction buff, he is still really good with the tactical retreat and high stakes. The suicide at the right time can win you the matches at the end stage. There we go. And you know, I might as well show the 3rd Jugler match. Right? So that was 2 matches where I got to use Jugler in great ways. Here's one where Leumas used Jugler against me. Okay? In great ways. So, Cape of Sorrow. Very Jugler friendly map. Right? He banned my Jugler to start, I banned his Ares to start. I play my Landius, and Zerda and Reen are now banned. So, pretty standard overall. He plays Jugler. Next, I ban Claret and Reen. Not sure why I banned Claret there, looking at it now. But I did, and I play Listel. So I lose Ares and Ledin, and he plays Ledin. Very early Ledin, but Ledin is his only Gospel character, so I think that's why he did it. With Gospel, right, Listel's Reaper's Touch is far less useful. So I now ban his 2 assassins, Zerda and Hiei. And I play Bozel. Gizaroff and Jessiqt are now banned on my side. Jessiqt made a lot of sense. Not too sure about Gizaroff. And he plays Bozel as well. So now I get rid of both Landius and Licorice and play my Wiler. I now lose my 2 remaining damage dealers, so Arianrod and Licorice are both banned. He plays Knight of Mysteries, and I ban his Wiler and Sophia, 2 healers. So he's been playing all damage dealers, right? Leaving him just Imelda as the healer. And on my side, I play Liana. So I end up with 2 healers, and he clearly ends up with Imelda. So he kind of has a healer in Ledin, and kind of has a healer in Imelda. And kind of has a healer in maybe Jugler. So here, surprisingly, he's positioned himself very far back. Leumas has, that is. Bozel with Black Hole, Faction buff, and Sleep. Ledin with Sea of Miracles, Gospel, Elven Aura. Imelda with Queen's Whip, Freeze Strike, and also Regrowth, interestingly enough. Knight of Mysteries has Backtrack, Thunder Zone, Broken Spear, of course, and Jugler has his usual skill set. So no real faction buffs except for the faction buff on Bozo alone. I figured I had a pretty good advantage here. I actually decided to run Templar Knights to avoid all the magic attacks, right? There's Jugler, there's Knight of Mysteries, there's Imelda. So I figured, and there's even Bozo. So I figured I ran Templar Knights because the only physical damage character is Jugler. And even if I run Royal Cavalry against Jugler, I'm not going to survive Beast Shock. So maneuvering forward a bunch. I'm beginning by moving in aggressively. That's the whole idea behind this to start. Of course, he uses Gospel on Jugler. And he activated a Breeze on Ledin. So I just start by having my Liana Gospel up my Langrisser as well. And finally, of course, high stakes. And he starts with Queen's Whip, mobility buff, stat buff, kind of thing. Interestingly enough, he managed to activate clocks on Queen's Whip. So right now, Knight of Mysteries does have the plus 10% to all stats, as well as plus 20% increased damage. And of course, you know, Fury of Tyr and all that. Well, I now start with Landius faction buffing. He now Queen's Whips Jugler. Right? So instead of relying on on like a Tenyo's headdress buff, he just flat out Queen's Whips Jugler. And now Jugler has plus 2 mobility for 3 turns. So this is a Jugler that clearly has Jugler plushie. Oh, sorry, this is a Imelda that has Jugler plushie and Clocks Enchant. Whatever. I just start by healing up my Wiler because I'm scared of this. I'm scared of the combination of the Black Hole and the Jugler. So Bozo though activated Clocks there. So it did 3 debuffs, it can launch it out again, annoyingly. For now, I retaliate with Blood Dance. He sees of Miracles, gets to act again, single target strike on my Landius, doesn't go through the Templar Knights, but it does heal up Bozo quite a bit. In hindsight, I made a mistake there. What I probably should have done, rather than putting him to sleep, was single target strike. I had my faction buff, right? So I think I had a chance to kill Disposal. Might have. Actually, probably not, looking at this now. It would have been interesting, because Bozo would have been at full hit points to launch a single target strike against Disposal, damaged one. Would have been more interesting than I think putting it to sleep. Well, but in any case, I put it to sleep instead of single target strike. I got a Clocks activation and Soul Stealer Headdress activation, but he's already been put to sleep, so whatever. And so, Thunder Zone, which means I have to teleport my characters back at this point. There's too much damage, right? And I just teleported to kind of avoid Jugler for now. So now, Knight of Mysteries tries to single target my Liana. Full hit point Liana. It just shrugs it off. But frustratingly, Broken Spear stunned me. Right? There is this one powerful debuff that's a random one. Right? It cannot be healed, it can be various things. He managed to get the stun on me. That was really annoying. I regrouped to heal my Liana, but yeah, had to basically waste that regroup. In the meantime, he's just hovering back. I'm also holding back. And Jugler now moves south and activates Triton. So now I start with my Bozal launching out Black Hole at these enemies. I'm just playing the luck factor there. Totally hoping for, you know, mobility debuff or silences or whatever. He responds by having Knight of Mysteries charge back and Thunder to Onain. This is where I think I made a mistake. Oh, this was where I made a big mistake. Okay, I moved Listel up to Reaper's Touch this Deedlit. Okay, well, what he managed to do is have Jugler charge forward, Sacred Beast him, and lock down my Landius. So, critical mistake on my part there. Okay. Didn't count the tiles properly, and now my Landius is locked down in poison. What I really should have done there, really, was probably move Landius in first, right? Get him out of the poison first, then go from there. Yep. If he, yeah, right? Because even if he has Jugler lock me down after that, so I can't move or I can't guard, at the very least, he can't lock me in poison. So that was this was the fatal mistake. Moving Listel in first. Should have moved Jugler in first, then followed him. Yeah. So this means my Landius is dead. But, you know, kudos to Leumas for noticing that, because that was the only way he could have locked me down. Right? If I had, it was a small mistake on my part, but he managed to catch it and take advantage. And then I make another fatal mistake. Okay. That jump also damaged my Listel heavily. I really should have suicided my Wiler here at this point to give everybody, to reactivate everyone's Desperate Prayer. Since I didn't, Listel dies as well. So two fatal mistakes in one turn, game over. Otherwise, I probably had a pretty decent chance. It's just unfortunate there. But nonetheless, another example of Jugler's teleportation winning matches. Yeah. And he does it with Imelda, with Jugler plushie. So, overall, I thought that was another very interesting fight. Yeah. Well worth showcasing. So I'm actually going to rename that one since I showed it here, right? So that was when the match is here. Glad you like it, Vincent. So let's see, what else is there that was worth watching? Rainforce matches. Why don't I showcase a bunch of those? So the first one is against Air. Air unfortunately has lost a whole bunch of matches to me. Just like how I lost a bunch to Leumas, he's lost a bunch to me. Air runs an interesting party with quite a few non-meta characters like Ashram and like Rainforce. So yeah, let's just start by showing this. So Reen banned first. I play Jugler because he banned my Jugler. Or I played Landius because he banned my Jugler. Ares and Zerda are now banned. He plays Jugler to start, and I just ban healers, Sophia and Deedlit. And I play Listel. So Iris and Wiler are banned, and he gets to play Liena. Hindsight, I probably should have left Sophia and banned Liena. Right? Get rid of the 2 gospel characters so that Estelle gets to showcase her powers. Regardless, I get rid of his assassins now, Hiei and Illustrial, and play my Liena. So I now wait. Just go back quickly. So I played Liena because I lost Wiler, right? Wiler and Iris were banned, so he forced me to play Liena. And he now bans my Yusuke and Angelina, playing Gizeroff. So I get rid of his Yusuke and Bozel, and I choose to play Dietlet here. I'm surprised I didn't play Reen, but I think a large part of why I don't play Reen was because he played Liena already. So with Liena providing immunity to Jugler so that I can't Reaper's Touch, right? Reen as a choice is much harder to use. So now he bans my Reen and Licorice, leaving me Bozel and Gizeroff. He plays Rainforce now, and I play Bozel, I think. So I get rid of Landius and Ashram. I play Bozel. He has the choice between Knight of Mysteries without a buff or Iris, and he chooses Knight of Mysteries. Makes sense. Like, Iris does not fit his party very well at all, at least not in this situation. So let's start. I'm maneuvering forward. Oh, one thing I should mention is on my Dietlet, I'm actually having her run 2 single target strike seals. She's not bringing Sea of Miracles. I have Liena as my healer already. I felt that that would be enough, and given that I don't really have a faction buff for Dietlet, I felt she had to bring Gospel. So I decided to bring 2 single target strikes, Elven Aura and Winged Hitter Dagger, rather than just bringing Sea of Miracles. For more sustained damage, basically. So since he moved Knight of Mysteries forward like this, I saw that my Dietlet had an opportunity to attack. So I could move 3, then move 1, 2, 3 to kill off this Knight of Mysteries. Especially since he activated his faction buff at the back here. Or sorry, he activated Triton at the back with Jugler. So first, he launches out Sonic Blade. I now have Dietlet, charge south, act again, Elven Aura attack, down goes the Knight of Mysteries. He gets to act again his Gizeroff, and he actually activated a Breeze buff on Jugler. Interestingly, right? So plus 3 mobility for Jugler. Annoying, as usual. Oh. Construct Summon. Another mobility buff, this time on Rainforce. And the Construct does a whole bunch of damage to my Dietlet, right off. So this Rainforce, rather than getting stuck here, and I was expecting him to be here, and then he would launch out an AoE that would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that, right? That's what should have happened, but since he got the mobility buff, he can now hit all 4 characters in the back. And that means Luna Flare would trigger the, since it's hitting 4 more characters, well, it only needs to hit 3 characters to have no cooldown. So since he can move all the way up, he's hitting 4. So it means Luna Flare can be used multiple times. First though, I have Dietlet kill off that Construct. He actually used Eclipse first. Okay. And Eclipse, since it hit 5 characters, so he hit 2 characters with Sonic Blade before, right? He now hit 5 characters with Eclipse. That's 7 characters hit total. So when you have 7 stacks, you get to act again. And so he chooses to Luna Flare instead. Surprisingly. I thought he was gonna kill off my Diglett, but he chose to Luna Flare. So I just start by healing up Diglett to try to keep her alive. And in the meantime, I start moving back. Oh, interestingly enough, I'm not sure why, but I ran Demonic Guard on Listel. Oh, I know why. I was going to rely on Demonic Guard against the Knight of Mysteries. But the Knight of Mysteries died to Diglett on turn 1 at the beginning. So Air made a careless mistake, and that gave me a massive advantage. And the rest of this fight is just me trying to make use of that advantage. So another interesting factor here is he Master of Ice with Jugler. Once again, I believe it's to try to kill my Diglett, but he didn't Master of Ice next to my Landius. Okay. I guess he wanted to stay in Leanna's heal range, but he really Mastered of Ice, or sorry, he used his Sacred Beast Hymn and didn't get into combat range against me, which was weird. Well, regardless, I start with Bozal, Dark Reaper. That might have been why, actually, looking at it now. He knew I could have Bozal attack and then follow up strikes, so he wanted to make sure he could heal up his Juggler. Well, Luna Flare. Diglett still lives and gets healed up. Go Diglett. So another Lunar Flare, but Diglett lives again. Although the Lunar Flare hit 3 characters again, so it gets to... it has the clock's effect activate yet again. The clock swing on Luna Flare is so annoying, I have to say. Regardless. Unexpected move for me. Beast Shock kill on my Bozal. Right. And that's because of the, I guess, character repositioning. It was not an option before, but with Luna Flare randomly teleporting my character positions, suddenly Juggler was able to Beast Shock kill my Bozal. I could have prevented that, as a side note, right? I did not have to heal Diglett right away at this point, because Juggler doesn't have AoE. Gizaroth doesn't have an AoE. So Diglett was safe right now. I could have kept Bozal alive by moving Bozal first. But I didn't move Bozal first, and so down goes my Bozal. Rip Bozal. But with that, he did offer, to kill Bozal, he did give me the opportunity to Reaper's Touch his Juggler. Right? Otherwise, he could have probably Gospeled first with Leanna to refresh the Gospel. But since I did have the opportunity to do that, so first I start with Diglett, striking Juggler. Okay. So this is exactly why I run Windcutter Dagger. Okay. Because it allows me to do stuff like this. So first, right? Gospel, Diglett, act again, and then Windcutter Dagger to strike Juggler. Didn't kill Juggler, he is very, very tough, but he takes tons of damage, and now he's damaged enough that he is basically dead, especially with the heal reversal and the 20% heal effect. to make sure, I'll have Landius finish it off. Luna Flare, right? There's now 4 debuffs on my Landius. Another Luna Flare. So he's constantly launching those out. There are now, well, there's now 5 of them on Landius. He acts again, and he's able to kill off my Liana now because of the random teleport. So, Rainforce going crazy with the Luna Flares, but I was able to now drop my Blood Dance on these 3, right? Heal reversal on all of them, massive damage on all of them. He has Liana Gospel herself. But I just have Landius use routes here. So another interesting point I should mention is I actually ran routes on my Landius, right? And the whole reason I ran routes was because I knew that I might need to push Jugler away. So I was relying on Gospel from Liana and then running routes. Okay, so that's why he has Peace of Mind, routes, and Indomitable. No faction buff. So now, all the remaining characters are ridiculously damaged for both sides, really. Deedlit kills off Rainforce. Construct summon. Deedlit gospels herself. Acts again. Elven Aura will take out Liana. And now that I have Elven Aura, I can heal up my Landius. Right? So there we go. He lives. And the Stell kills off Gizaroth, leaving just 2 constructs for the enemy. So there we go. Still end up winning. Just hilariously, I even have my Landius activate Bloodline Magic Armor at the very end. But yeah, that was another fun match, you know. Luna Flare is just annoying as hell. But mostly managed to survive it, despite how many stacks he managed to apply on me. I had figured that Liana would be able to keep removing them, but it didn't work out that way. No, still won at the end of the day, so whatever. So that was another interesting battle. I should probably show this one too, because this is another good Rainforce battle. So after that battle, I actually looked up more information about Rainforce, because I actually didn't know how Luna Flare worked before. And so this is a battle where I actually properly counter Rainforce. Granted, it was also this is also a battle where the opponent doesn't get breeze activations on Rainforce, right? Or +3 mobility activations on Rainforce, as the case may be. So once again, we always see my Jugler get banned. Enemy plays Ares. Well, actually, I don't always see my Jugler get banned. I do play him occasionally, but very often Jugler is the first ban, I've noticed. So I looked at his party. He has Ares, he has Claret, right? Imelda, Leon, Knight of Mysteries. Clearly another single target offensive box. Just surprisingly no Iris. It really weirds me out. Like, I keep seeing all these single target strike style boxes, but they always seem to be missing one of the core characters. Iris and Imelda should be your core healers for any kind of single target box, but there's no Iris here. Anyways, so I now lose Ares and Jessiqt. Very common. He plays Landius to start. I get rid of Reen and Listel. He has the option to pick Zerda. Right. I play Reen. gives her off in Liana ban. On his side, he plays Claret first. I didn't think I could. I mean, it was a choice between facing Claret and facing Reen. Or sorry, facing Ares or Claret. And I was just like, I don't know. You know what? Let's just get rid of one of them. Ares. And so he played Claret. So I get rid of his Zerda and Liana. And play Wiler. Bozal and Licorice ban. He plays Rainforce early, which once again surprises me. A lot of people seem to like to play Rainforce very early on. So I get rid of Sophia and Imelda. Right? Imelda especially. But Sophia is his remaining healer. I mean, Deedlit is sort of a healer, but not really. So he's lost all his healers to play Rainforce. So I play Zerda, Assassin. He gets rid of my Listel and Deedlit. And I have the choice between Iris and Arianrod. On his side, he now plays Knight of Mysteries. So it's all Yelas Legend characters. So I get rid of Jugler and Deedlit. He has no healer whatsoever now. And so I play Iris. And he will play Bozal. It's not necessarily a bad thing to play an all-offense box, but yeah, at least this became a pretty interesting match. So I start with, as always, Zerda charging forward. Right. Zerda here is going to be the Shadow Raid version. And this was something that I did on purpose. I had Iris bring Mass Resist. Right? So Mass Resist provides immunity to stun, unbuffable, and mobility reduction effects. So I really wanted that counter against Bozal, who I know usually brings sleep. So with Iris here, providing that, Bozal can't use sleep. And Black Hole would not apply, cannot receive buffs on me as well. So two very useful effects. That skill is actually really, really underrated. If you can bring it, it can very much help, especially if you're facing Bozal. Yeah, there's a lot of things to know and remember. So, one thing I haven't done yet here is on turn 1, I didn't think battle was occurring right away, so I didn't activate Spirit Unification yet. So, an interesting thing. He's spread out his characters, but annoyingly, Knight of Mysteries activated +2 mobility. This gave me a big headache as a side note, because I really wanted to assassinate Claret, but if I do, because this Knight of Mysteries got +2 mobility, if I assassinated Claret, Knight of Mysteries gets to kill off my Zerda. So that gave me a big headache. Purely because of the +2 mobility. Well, so I just heal up Wiler for now. So I knew this turn 1 I could not move in. So for now, peace of mind up. He does the same thing, blocking my way of attacking Bozal. I'm going to have Spirit Unification get used by Reen. Okay. He hits me with Thunder Zone. I'm okay with that. I decide to just move Zerda back. Because Zerda was here at that point. I didn't see any way of properly assassinating Claret yet, so I just decided to move back, preserve my +4 mobility buff. And actually, I get lucky here. Well, I mean, Tenyo's headdress being what it is, every so often you get a mobility buff. Right? This time my Reen got +3 mobility. So now Reen is 7 mobility, just like that. And I also teleport my Zerda up. Now that he's moved Claret to here, and Knight of Mysteries doesn't have a mobility buff, there's this teleport gave me the opportunity to assassinate Claret without facing a guaranteed kill, like Knight of Mysteries attack. So this was what I wanted to do on turn 1, and I wasn't allowed to. But this is exactly why I brought Iris with Langrisser the Iris. Okay. So Zerda goes in. Don't even bother to use Shadow Raid. Just a single target strike with backstab and all that damage. Down he goes. Down goes Claret. Landius. Single target strikes my Zerda, but my Zerda is at full hit points and has damage taken reduced by 20%. Easily tanks the hit. So, tactical retreat. Pull her to safety. He now starts pushing in aggressively, and so I start by using Mass Resist. So now he can't use sleep and all that stuff. He does what he can. Black Hole is launched. Right. The Black Hole clearly should have applied a cannot receive buffs effect on me. But they were both immune to it. So they both got immunity because of the Mass Resist. So perfectly utilized Mass Resist, protected against the enemy Bozal. And then I was able to have Landius choose to single target strike the enemy Landius, and since the enemy Landius already had heavily damaged Royal Cavalry, I was able to just take out his first life. Rainforce moves in, tosses out a Sonic Blade now. And I have Reen run in and hit everyone with AoEs. So, Termination / Dawn to start. Once again, insult to injury. Broken Spear gets completely stopped by... yeah, Broken Spear got completely stopped by my activation of the Aeolus's Battle Armor. So the 30% damage reduction effect, and since the Knight of Mysteries was already damaged, he just didn't do all that much to my ring. Keep in mind that Reen has minus 15% damage taken from Wiler. Add in another 30%, that's 45% damage reduction on those Griffin Knights. So the Griffin Knights absorbed everything. Would Reen have died to Broken Spear without it? Maybe. Not sure, because after all, the Knight of Mysteries was damaged. But yeah. In any case, Reen lives. That's all I personally care about. And Zerda gets to assassinate Bozal now, because I didn't use Shadow Raid before. He gets to launch out the Luna Flare on me for once. And act again to kill off my Iris. So, let's have my Reen move into guard range and hits these three with an AoE. Game over. Battle done. So this battle I properly spread out, right? Although he got one Luna Flare in at the end, it was at a time where it wouldn't have made any difference. So another fun match. Facing off against Rainforce, you do kind of have to spread out. It is quite annoying. But being able to teleport my characters forward, like getting that 5th pick Iris, really helped me for that fight with Zerda. Let's cover one last match and that'll be it for this video. So there's a bunch of videos to watch for the following week. Let's see. I'm gonna have to renumber a lot of these. So I went over this Rainforce one. should I show this battle against no tank party? Yeah, let's do that. This will be a good video to end on, I think. So enemy has Jugler, and actually I'll do 2 more videos. I'll do 2 more battles in this one. So this is the first one. Enemy has Jugler Landius. So he does have a tank. I wonder what that meant. I'm looking at this part. Oh, this is a very, I guess, old style party. Okay. There is Illustrial, there is Hiei, so 2 assassins here. No Zerda, surprisingly. There's a mix of, let's say, Rachel, Deedlit. It's not a very, I guess, it is meta characters, but it's not a very well planned party in my opinion. That's what I'm looking at this, that's my impression. I lose Jugler. He starts with Sophia of all, because I banned a healer, right? So I looked at this party, I'm like, look, he has 3 healers, Liana, Iris, and Sophia. Why don't I try banning all 3 and then maybe screwing him over with Jessiqt? I think that was my battle plan here. And because he saw me banning his healer to start, I guess he panicked and picked Sophia first. So since he picked Sophia first, I just banned Jugler and Landius right away, forcing him to have no tank. So I get my Landius, he bans my Ares and my Zerda, and plays his own Ares. So let's get rid of Reen and Deedlit now. And play my Jessiqt. He gets Deedlit and Gizaroff and plays Hiei. So, I mean, Sophia is kind of like a faction buff, so this does make sense. So, Bozel and Illustrial, let's stop him from having too many assassins. Bozel because I don't like debuffs and so on, and I play my Reen. Third pick Reen after I got Jessiqt. Talk about unexpected. So he gets rid of 2 healers, Liana and Iris now. I still have Wiler though. I've been noticing that a lot. A lot of people seem to be leaving me my Wiler for later picks. You know how in the previous season I was picking Wiler second, right? This season I've been kind of like, I don't care which healer I get, and it's actually been working out very well. So my whole pick ban strategy has changed dramatically, as I'm sure you've noticed. Last season was always ban Jugler. You know, Jugler was first banned, and then, you know, I was picking Landius and then Wiler. This season, I'm like, you know, I'm picking whatever healer near the end, and I'm banning damage dealers instead of their tanks. So, in any case though, he managed to get Jessiqt after Hiei. I didn't care if he got this combo because of Sophia, but yeah. He picked Jessiqt, so I get rid of Gizaroff and Rachel. Right? Need to get rid of Gizaroff. Didn't want the Gizaroff summons to activate Jessiqt's ability. I play Wiler now, a very late Wiler. He gets rid of my Listel and Angelina. And finally, he plays Licorice. So I have the choice between Bozel and Licorice on my side. I play Licorice as well. This was a very weird... Yeah, this pick ban didn't turn out the way I expected it to. I mean, it ended up being big brain, but it was a pick ban that was a little bit odd. So, Hiei first, followed by Jessiqt. So since Hiei activated a mobility buff, I'm just holding back, but I have to keep in mind, he can actually move 5, then move 4 more. I keep forgetting about that as a side note. I always forget that when Hiei uses Dragon of Darkness Flame, he gets +1 mobility. So right now, this Hiei actually has 9 mobility. And I forgot that, that's why my Reen is placed where he was. Actually, Jessiqt is in range too of Hiei. Like I said, I always forget about that +1 mobility. It's something I have to remember and adjust to. In any case, he's moving in aggressively. He knows he has to push in, and he manages to activate a mobility buff on Jessiqt as well. So basically, his whole party has the opportunity to close in properly against me, because Hiei has mobility, Jessiqt has mobility, Ares has mobility, and Licorice, of course, can fly. So he got he got the proper mobility buffs that he needed to make this work. And I just decided to start with Licorice to try to have her provide buffs. Interestingly enough, he chose to do the same thing. He buffed up his back characters with his Licorice. And I'm just having my characters hold back, activating skills, basically waiting for the Hiei to move in. But he didn't. I'm not going to complain about that, so he actually chose to retreat back. Which was interesting. I was really expecting him to move in, but I think he saw that I activated my Wiler, high stakes, so he was like, I'm not charging in against high stakes. The guys are just gonna heal up to full health before combat begins. So now he moves in. Hiei first. And Hiei doesn't do enough damage to kill Rain, right? Not when I had the high stakes effect. So follow-up strike, Dark Despair, rewriting the terrain effects. I'll start with my Jessiqt, killing off his Hiei. And removing the buffs from Licorice now. Ares, Fearless Hurricane, Wind Whisper, Teleports, second AoE, but nobody dies. And I get to dispel. So, the reason nobody died though is almost purely because of let me just pause that for a second. Purely because of Wiler's high stakes, right? The 15% damage reduction, or in Licorice's 20% damage reduction, kept them all alive. But the teleportation actually moved my Jessiqt out of Landius' guard range, and I wasn't paying attention and I didn't realize that. So I should have moved Landius to protect, right? But I didn't, and so he gets to kill off my Jessiqt. Actually, did he actually remove my high stakes to kill him? Oh no, I didn't have high stakes anymore on Jessiqt. So yeah, legit death. Interesting. Okay, so battle continues. He rewinds to refresh skills, and I finish off Ares. So, but his Jessiqt can launch out the single target skill again. For now, I have my... I launch out my Termination/Dawn with green. And he gets to kill off my Licorice now with that AoE. Right. So, these AoE strikes are doing their job. They're wiping out my characters bit by bit. Licorice, just without a faction buff, just doesn't have enough magic defense to survive against the enemy Licorice. Would have been different if I brought a faction buff, but I chose... Wait, I did bring a faction buff. So even with the faction buff, she doesn't have enough magic defense to survive that many AoEs. It's too bad. Yeah, I chose to bring mass heal to try to prevent this kind of situation, but I couldn't use mass heal frequently enough to keep my character, to keep her alive. Yeah, my Jessiqt is 6 stars. Of course she is. So, this battle I thought would be easy, but it's getting more difficult than I expected. Wiler also got silenced. So first, I start with Rein. He got silenced too after that. Enemy mass heals. I have Landius charge forward and crush Licorice now. And my Landius dies for the first time to Dark Tincture. So Catapult Wiler gets the opportunity to attack at 3 range against the enemy Jessiqt. So it works for me. And now Jessiqt launches out a 2 range attack. Down goes my Landius, but so does his Jessiqt. So that leaves me Wiler and Rein against Sophia. So the battle ended up being more difficult than I expected it to be, but I still won. I did have to rely on some luck though, right? Because I was purposely walking into the terrain effects of his Licorice. And I had to rely on the fact that hopefully I won't get silenced or whatever to win that. Or I cannot be healed applied on my characters to win that. So that was one where the enemy had no tank. The other one that I want to cover in the final video, or the final battle of this video, will be an actual no tank party, which was Newbies. Okay, so let's name that 2. Newbie runs a very, very interesting party. I faced off against him a bunch of times now, but you really do need practice against his party to succeed against it. Because, let's just demonstrate it. His party is a full-on single target box, not a single tank. Look at this. There is a Toguro Bros, there is Ares, there is Sonya, there is Leon, there is Claret. Okay, 5 of the best single target strikers in the game. In addition to these 5, there is also characters to buff them, like Iris, Tieris, Imelda. Right? And then rounding out the party is Luna and Angelina, also there. So there's 3 characters who can kind of mobility buff. Luna, Angelina, and Imelda, as well as Iris actually. So multiple mobility buffers there. And then rounding it out is Hiei, Zerida, and Jessiqt. The only character that doesn't make that much sense in my opinion is Yulia. Because Yulia is the only slow one out of the bunch. But it's a crazy box. You know, all these extreme mobility single target strikers. And that's why he always bans Langrisser first. Because Langrisser has 2 lives, but Jugler only has 1. So I start by banning his Sonya. I know Sonya can kill my party, so I play Jugler after banning Sonya. So I now lose Zerida and Gizerov, right? Faction Buffer and Assassin. He plays Ares. Against Ares, at least I have a chance to survive, right? If Ares fails to remove my in water effect, then Ares usually lacks the damage to kill Jugler. So that's why I play Jugler. That's why I'm okay with this. At least it's a gamble. Get rid of Tieris, get rid of Zerida, play my Ares. I now lose Wiler and Jessiqt, and he plays Imelda. So So Iris Luna ban, I play Liana, healer, right? He already banned Wiler, so I play Liana. I lose Ariane Rod and Lestel now. And he chooses to play Hiei. So good mix of damage dealers, right? Some assassins, the mobility buff, and Ares. So I get rid of Angelina and Yusuke here. He no longer has any other mobility buffing characters, right? So there's just Imelda for the Queen's Whip. And I play Diglett. Next up, I lose Licorice and Iris, and he plays Leon. So Leon, I didn't consider this, but Leon buffs Imelda and buffs Ares, right? So that's the reason for Leon. So I get rid of Claret and Diglett. So he still has Toguro Bros though, and Yulia. And I play Bozol, and he ends up paying, of course, Toguro Bros, leaving the Yulia alone. I imagine he's probably building up Rosalia as the last character at this point, or something like that. So this is one of those. So he starts with a faction buff from Leon in the far back. I'm just hovering way back. So for this fight, I had Jugler choose to bring her his faction buff. Faction buff, Triton, Sacred Beast. Okay. So that can buff up Diglett as well, and he would also have 6 buffs this way, right? The faction buff effect, and then the Triton buffs. So that I was hoping that with that, he might not remove the water effect. Grievin. Well, almost done. So you can get back to homework soon. So one other thing about this battle is that you might find interesting is I decided to run summons. So there's a summon on Bozol, summon Undead, and there's summon Sky Archer on Liana. So the whole point of this is by having all these additional targets that can be hit, I can protect my characters better, right? Force these guys to waste their attacks on the useless summons. That was the plan anyways. So Hiei gets to charge in as always, and Sword of Darkness Flame attack crushes my Ares right away. Well, that's fine. I move Diglett, she gets act again, and she gets to Elven Aura down the enemy Hiei. At the very least, I was I got to take him. I got to trade the characters. So the difference there as well was I was running Angel Ares, so that meant he can actually fly over the swamp. So I would have moved here, then moved 1, 2, 3, 4 to attack, and so he had to get rid of my Ares. So that's why he had to send Hiei in. So I forced the trade of Hiei for my Ares. That was basically the start. Togo Bros. I'm going to act again. Diglett. Juggler activates Triton for now. And I actually make a mistake here. A pretty big one. And the mistake was I should have had the mistake was using Elven Aura before. Because Elven Aura, I should have used Windblade to kill off Hiei. But since I used Elven Aura, when I moved Diglett here, Diglett ended up removing the Triton buff. Or sorry, the in-water buff. Because Elven Aura makes characters in forest terrain. So when Juggler is considered in forest, the lobsters are no longer benefiting. So that was a mistake on my part. So Ares charges in, launches out Wind Whisper. Okay. And the teleport, Fearless Hurricane, actually wipes out my Bozal. So because my Bozal didn't bring a faction buff, Ares just flat out killed my Bozal. Of course, a part of that was also the fact that I had my Juggler in the back. So this was one of the things, this was also me not paying attention, ultimately. This Ares did not have Noble Charge, it had Wind Whisper. So a different positioning with Juggler further in front would have made sense here. Nonetheless, you know, I have 3 characters now, enemy has 4, but I should be able to crush Ares here. So what I do is I had my Juggler charge forward and jump against Toguro Bros. Okay. So mobility debuffing and locking them down. And massive damage at the very least. So the enemy uses Queen's Whip on Leon. Clearly he's aiming for the Chivalry and then Thousand Hooves attack. Okay. So, but my Deedlit previously got Breeze activation the previous turn, after I acted again. So, Deedlit charges up, acts again, Wind Whisper, Leon goes down. Toguro Bros activates 120%, and the interesting thing here is that I didn't realize is, for whatever reason, after activating 120%, Toguro Bros is actually able to move a tile. I'm still not sure how that works. Right? I'm just looking at this, because you use Transform to gain 3 blocks of movement. So, oh, right. Sorry. When you activate any kind of skill like that, you're allowed to move. If you Chivalry, right? If you Chivalry next to Juggler, you can move. If you use Cold Blood next to Juggler, you can move. So since he used his 120%, he could move. But since he's in water, he can only move 1 tile. So he moves. Body Manipulation. Hits me. But since he's so heavily damaged now, doesn't do all that much to my Juggler. Certainly not enough to kill him. And he heals up very easily. So the lobsters just shrugged it off completely. In the meantime, I try to heal my Lien to full and weaken Ares. Ended up leaving my Liana with 92% hit points on the Shrine Maidens. So in hindsight, I probably should have had Dispel be casted by these Sky Archers. Might have hit 100% that way. Well, since I'm not at full, Ares' attack kills off my Liana. So, Juggler starts by wiping out Imelda. And Deedlit usually finishes off Toguro Bros. So now it's 3, I guess, against 1. And Newbie just gives up. Especially after he saw my Juggler get +3 mobility. But there we go. So, I mean, it required mobility buffs to beat Newbie's party this way, but the fact of the matter is, that's, once again, that's why you run Tenyo's headdresses. The +3 mobility buff is so good that there's no reason not to run those Tenyo headdresses. And that will be it for today's video. So there's a whole bunch more videos I could cover, right? If we look at the battle reports, I have a whole bunch of videos now listed with the number 3. That would be well worth watching. But yeah, that will be it for now. I streamed for over 2 hours. I'll try to stream 2 hours again next week. Alright. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll answer a few of the questions that I wasn't paying attention to. So, for example, people asked why I run a magic deedlit. I run a magic deedlit for 2 reasons. Okay, there are advantages and disadvantages to it. Okay, infantry deedlit is a much better combat healer, right? With Elven Aura, with Gift of Eternal Life, infantry deedlit heals up a lot and it's hard to kill. So there is that. The Mage Deedlit has the following advantages though. First, Mage Deedlit can run 2 attack skills and be quite effective that way. Second, Mage Deedlit with these attack skills can generally kill off Landius in 1 shot. And finally, Mage Deedlit can run Tenuous Headdress. So with Mage Deedlit, you can move twice and provide 2 buffs, right? Every other turn. So these Tenuous Headdress buffs can be the +3 mobility buff. And I rely on that pretty heavily, as you guys saw in a lot of these videos. So that's why I run Mage Deedlit. Okay. Single target strike is okay, and more importantly, she provides Tenuous Headdresses. Another question was, wonder if infantry deedlit would kill Ledin in that earlier fight, since her attack would have done more damage to Phalanx. Potentially. I mean, I think the issue though was just the mage is not doing enough damage, and in that sense, maybe it would change if I upgrade the wizards to level 10. After all, my wizards are currently level 9. At level 10, they get another 7% attack. So we'll see, because then it goes to 30% from 27, and then here from 26 to 30. I don't know. When I get more burning straps, I'll try it out. I am going to raise the wizards to level 10 anyways, so hopefully we'll see. Other than that, I mean, the other tech for wizards, it only provides increased damage when your hit points is below 90%, and I was at like full hit points there, so that wouldn't have kicked in. Is there any other tech that would increase wizard damage? I don't think so. Right? Nope. So, yeah. I mean, I'll upgrade the wizards, get the 7% increase, and we'll see how it goes. And I think that's it. So, thanks for watching, guys.